Hello, hello, welcome back, everyone. It's Nikki Clarke, and it's the Nikki Clarke Show live on Instagram. And we are about to kick off another episode of the show on Instagram Live with our very special guest, Tracey-Acadia Thomas. And I see a lot of people. Yes. Excellent. She's going to be joining us in a couple of seconds. How's everyone doing? I see Carmina, welcome. I see the Harry Jerome Awards, welcome. Harish, welcome. Here you go, Tracy. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. And yes, I wanted to say congratulations to you. You have been so consistent in your endeavors. Publishing this magazine, and then I know that you have other things in the community like the Women Award Show that you have to recognize outstanding women, and then the male version of that of recognizing outstanding men, and then raising, I think, is it 2 boys?
Yeah, 2 boys
and a husband. So it's a lot of juggling, but kudos to you for handling it so well, and then being a woman of faith, I think, is probably how you keep it all together. But let's talk about that, and so that people can know this wonderful story behind the story. So tell me about your journey leading up to becoming the publisher of Soulful Image magazine.
Well, I'll tell you, Nikki, it was not easy.
Yeah.
We all go through things in life, and it was even a journey with my husband and I. At the time, we weren't married, so we were together for about, I think, around 6 years or so before we got married. And there was a lot of challenges. So during that time, I was a new Christian, and I was, always in the church. And so when the enemy started to attack our relationship, we ended up actually breaking up. And this is when I had my firstborn son. And he was about 6 around that time. So during that time, it was hard. So as soon as we broke up, I actually ended up in a shelter with my son. And God was able to show me a lot. So a lot of times you go through things in your life and you think you have it that bad until you actually see what people are really battling with. So I was in a women's shelter where all of the women except for myself was there because of abuse. I had ended up there because when Alistair and I had separated, I couldn't afford to carry the rent where I was. So I put everything in storage. And for a few weeks, we lived out of the car, me and my son. So it wasn't until I went to the pastor of my church, and he says to me, "Tracy, what do you want to do?" And God had given me a vision before everything happened that I was going to end up in a shelter. And it was a very vivid, very strong vision. So my pastor says to me, we have lots of people in the church where, we can find you somewhere to stay.
Right.
What do you want to do? So I said, I don't know why, but I feel God wants me to go through this process of going into the shelter. Mm-hmm. So I called the main line. Yeah, like I called the main line, and there's a main line, and it can place you anywhere in the city. Right. Anywhere throughout the city. And they placed me a block away from where I was working and very close to my son's school. Wow. So I feel like God favored me in that situation. So as it turns out, so I end up there, and I'm noticing just the depression. I'm noticing the women are just they're just broken. And it wasn't until like a few days later I saw a woman come in with a 2-week-old baby.
2 weeks.
And her 5-year-old daughter. Yeah, 2 weeks. She fled the night to save herself from her common law husband, because he was beating her, he was abusing her. And I had never experienced that before. So I've been through a lot in my life, but I think sometimes you go through things and you're not very aware of what's happening around you until God places you in that environment. So that actually ended up becoming the inspiration, the driving force of the magazine, because I had the chance to really see women at their lowest point. And most times when a woman is going through abuse, and she has to leave this person who she hoped would love her, all her dreams, all her desires, everything is gone. It's gone. And so I was able to experience that and see that for myself, and really feel the Lord saying to me, women need help. They need help. They need help to get their faith back. They need help to know that they're not alone in what they're going through. They also need the help or the faith to know that no matter what their circumstances is, God loves them.
Yes.
God is for them. And so even myself being in this place, and I was kind of at rock bottom emotionally, because I never wanted to be a single mother, because I knew the calling God had in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that if I was going to lead other women, I needed to be married. And at the time, my now husband, he didn't believe in marriage, because his upbringing and just what he saw around him was all broken marriages,
It scared him.
He did. Like he just didn't want that for himself, and he was afraid that if he went into that would be his result, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was very hard, because I knew that that's what I wanted, but he didn't want it. And so when I found myself in that position when we had broken up,
mm-hmm.
I prayed and I said, Lord, it's not my will anymore. Like, I really need to surrender to you, so that whatever your will is for me, that you will make it come to pass, right? And that's the problem. A lot of times, us as women, we try to do things in our own strength.
Right. Leaning on our own understanding.
You know what I mean? And sometimes we put ourselves in worse situations. Sometimes we're picking the wrong people.
Yes.
Sometimes, we're just not being wise enough to allow God to really be the one to choose for us. And that's just simply surrendering. When we surrender the outcome, when we surrender a life to Him, He will bring what is meant. Because I truly believe that God already knows our end.
Of course.
When He fashioned and He formed us, He already created us with purpose. So He already knows what we were created for. He already knows what attacks and things that we're going to go through in our lives. That's why it's a lot easier to just surrender to Him, because He knows the whole plan, and just allow Him to give us what we need when we need it, despite what we want or asking for, right? So I had to come to that place. And it was during that journey, I realized myself, I need support, because spiritually I considered myself a young Christian, and I wanted to surround myself with women and people who I can fellowship with, who could potentially pour into me, and that I can pour into, and that we could just, strengthen, uplift, encourage, be that rock for, But unfortunately at the time, when all of this hit the fan in my life, it didn't exist at the time in my church. So I was crying out to the Lord, and I'm like, Lord, I need support. I want to be around women who are struggling just like me, that we can pray together, that we can really be that support for. And God said to me, he said, you do it. You start it. And I was like, me? But I'm the one that needs help, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, how is this going to work?
Yes.
God said, just do it. And you know what? In the midst of me now deciding, okay, you know what? I created an email and I sent it out to the women in my church. Because at the time I was on the praise team, because I'm also a singer. So I was on the praise and worship
Beautiful
team.
Voice.
So
beautiful voice, Tracy.
So like everyone kind of knew me, and I knew a lot of women. So I sent the email and I said, what would you think if I started something like this, where we can, fellowship at least once a month. We can pray together. We can go on outings. We can have breakfast. We can have lunch dates. We could do all of these things, just so that we had that community, that relationship to get together and talk about the things that we're going through, and share and get the support and uplift and encourage one another. They loved it.
Right.
I got an inbox of emails saying, count me in. Count me in, girl. I'm there. You know what I mean? So I was like, wow, okay. Wow. So now I'm like, okay, now I have to prepare things to kind of like lessons and things, that I wanted to do with the women to kind of make some order and construction of things for us to do. As I got into the Word, God started to speak to me. He started to deal with me, because from the moment my husband, at the time we were common law, but when we had broken up, I was so angry. I was so upset because, like I said, I never wanted that in my life. I never wanted to be a single mom. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with it, but I knew the mandate that God had on my life.
Yes.
That if I was going to be a leader, an influencer, a strong woman of faith that people can actually listen to, I had to lead by example. So that's when I started to pray and say, Lord, well, if he's not the one for me, open me up and bring the one who is, right? And just getting to that place where I'm saying, I surrender. I surrender it all to you for you to choose for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I can tell you, I never expected what happened. Like I said, as I got more into the Word, God started to deal with my anger and my expectations and how I was treating him, because our interactions was not nice. He still had visitation with his son, and God had to remind me, how you treat him will be a reflection of your son. And that was just like, wow, okay, all right. I love my son. I love him as well, but I didn't want to unconsciously do anything that was going to harm my child. So I then had to now look at my actions, even my thoughts, because a lot of times when we get into disagreements and things with other people, we're so focused on our point of view, what we want, what we see the problem is, right?
Right.
I had to now switch my focus in my mind to think about him as a man and just how he feels, you know, because at the time I think he had lost his job. There was a lot of financial issues, and that resulted in the breakup of the relationship. So I had made a decision. I said, you know what? I'm going to build him up. Regardless if we're together or not, he's still the father of my sons. So I start to pour into him. I start to love him. I started to encourage him. I started to embrace his gifts and just let him know, you know, you are a talented, valuable man. And it started to transform our relationship on such an amazing level. And we had challenges because at the time, his mom really wasn't very supportive of our relationship. So when the breakup happened, it was almost like she was happy. And so now when I'm dropping my son off, she's like, you're banned. You can't stay here. She didn't even want me. Yeah, she didn't even want me to be there.
What's your relationship now?
Oh, you know, it's a lot better. I mean, there's other things, but in the beginning, you know, there was a lot of challenges. So it caused such a long desire and drive for Alistair and I to want to be together. It was almost like this force against us drew us closer.
Right.
And so as we now are spending more time together with our son, we're realizing there's so much love between us. Why are we apart? And it got to the point where we didn't want to be apart anymore, right? And so I'm starting to pray about it, and I'm like, okay, Lord, you know, you've brought us to a great place, but he still doesn't believe in marriage. Yes. How are you going to deal with this, right? The Lord sent a prophet to tell me, the Lord said, you will be getting married, and a lot sooner than you think. I was just
mind blown.
What? Like, really?
This is something you've been looking for how long?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to test it. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not even going to tell him. And I'm going to wait to see if this was really from the Lord and if it would really come to pass. So I kept my mouth shut. And it so happened a few months later, one of our friends, a couple, they got married, like through our church. So we ended up, we were in the bridal party. And because everyone knew us at church, right? They kept coming up to him and they're like, so when are you and Alistair, right? Like, when are you guys gonna? So, and he was so upset.
Yeah.
He was so upset. He was like, not me. Can you believe the very next day he came to me and said, God said it's time.
Wow. Alistair.
The next day. What
did you say?
The very next day he came to me and he said God told him it's time. And he realized for himself that it's not about what he sees happening in the world and other people's relationships. Yeah. He's responsible for his and the connection that we have. He said, you know what? I can marry you because I love you and the relationship we have, it works, you know? So we ended up driving our friends to Niagara Falls for their honeymoon. And on the way, we ended up going to see one of our pastors that used to counsel us. And I called her up and I says, guess what? She's like, what? What's going on? I said, we're engaged. We want to get married and we want you to marry us. She's like, oh my goodness, oh, right? And at the time,
hallelujah,
she was going through, so she was going through her own issues in her marriage. And she had just finished telling God, you know what? I'm not doing any more marriages. I'm not doing anything. I just want to focus on my relationship with you. And then I called, and she said, she told me later, she told God, this wedding I will do. So I was just like, wow, you know? So just that journey of seeing God really move in our life. Like, God is so rewarding when you just give it all to Him.
Tap into Him.
When you surrender.
Yes.
When you trust Him. And when you lead a lifestyle of faith, which is the premise of my magazine. So Soulful Image Magazine is living a lifestyle of faith, because we need faith in everything, every area of our lives. Everything that we do, we need God and we need faith. We cannot operate in fear. Fear will never give you the results that you want, only faith. And so that has been my life's journey, my life's message, my life's testimony, is living a lifestyle of faith. And I've dealt with a lot of things. I didn't have an easy upbringing. I left home when I was 13.
13.
When I was 13, yeah, I was in and out of, different people's homes, ended up on student welfare. When I was in high school, I lived on my own in high school, and I had to do for myself at a very young age. And I know it was God preparing me, allowing me to go through certain things, right, to prepare me to become the woman I am today. And despite all of the things I've been through, it has never stopped me. Even in my lowest points, I've always been a woman to serve and help others. And every time I've gone through anything, because I know my life doesn't belong to me. You know what I'm saying? And all of us, we all have gifts and talents that God has given us. That's not for us. It's for the people around us that He's put into our lives. Because I know this magazine represents something to help people that I know, whatever area. And we cover all the topics. We cover health, we cover mindset, we cover finances, we cover business, we cover, I have a section called Satisfy Your Soul. Yes. In which we have a lot of articles, rich, biblical-based articles that really uplift and bring out your faith, that helps you with your faith. It is everything. And that's my heart. That's my heart. That's my journey. Right? So excellent. I'm just so thankful, because for many years I had been supporting my husband doing his business. He runs a t-shirt business. He's actually the creative director of the magazine. He's extremely talented. He does all the graphics and everything. But it's funny, because for years I was supporting him and God's calling for him. And then it became, like with any couple, you want things to go a certain way.
Yes.
And he's like, hold on, Tracy, God gave this to me. This isn't your vision, this is mine. And I had to humble myself, right? Okay, And it just got to the point where I was like, Lord, I need something of my own. I prayed and I asked God to give me something that I can pour my heart, my passion, my talent into. And that was the magazine. I had never even thought in my life that I would be doing this. It was even to the point that I didn't think I was qualified. I didn't think I was qualified.
Kind of like an imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah. Well, It was more so because, sometimes in your mind, when God gives you an assignment, you feel like, okay, I have to be able to do everything, right? I have to be able to sustain every single piece. But that's not how God works. That's not how God works. God never gives you something that you have to do all on your own. So you'll have skills in certain areas,
right?
But the other skills that are required, God's going to bring that. He's going to bring the right people to fill those pieces to help the vision become fruitful.
Yeah, destiny helpers.
Yeah, and that's what happened with me. So when I felt the Lord whispering, saying, "Start a magazine, start a magazine," and this was in the midst of doing the women's ministry. I went to my husband and I said, "I don't know why, but I keep hearing the Spirit telling me to start a magazine," and he was like, "A magazine?" You know what? He thought about it. He's like, "You know what? That's a great idea. And it's going to be the best looking magazine out there." That's what he told me.
Because he's behind it.
He had already decided that he was on board, that he was going to help me. And I was shocked because I didn't expect that, you know? Sometimes we have visions and dreams and we think, you know what? No one's going to understand the vision. So I'm just going to do it on my own. But God will bring the right people who will understand and see the vision alongside you, and He'll bring them along to help it get to where it needs to go. The very first issue we did, we released it online. Because I was a church body, I didn't really know anybody. So I was like, okay, let's first kind of build this online, let people see what we're about, let them kind of get a feel and understanding of where we're going with this. So for the first year, we put our issues out online and we started to gain traction. And I was like, oh, wow, this is working. Whoa. Right? So then I heard the Lord say, okay, what you got to do now is start to network. You got to get out in the community, share what you're doing, meet people. Not knowing that some of the people that I was meeting would be instrumental in coming alongside me and working with me in the magazine. I didn't think of that. You know, I didn't even, because again, sometimes you'll get an assignment and not see the whole picture. That's okay. God will reveal it as long as you have faith and you trust Him and you just move forward. You just keep at it, keep doing it. The little pieces, unknown pieces, they will show up. And that's what happened for me.
Yeah. Just be patient. Be patient in the process and let God do His work. I think a lot of us make the mistake of doing God's work for Him. And He's saying that I didn't ask you to do that. I asked you to just trust and obey. Right?
Yes. Just have faith and do your part. And God will do the rest. So when you start to develop this type of relationship with your Creator, you'll start to see an ease and flow in certain areas of your life. That's because you've worked at it. You've consistently worked. That's why I say it's a lifestyle.
Yes.
You've consistently practiced, trusting Him, waiting for things to show up, these kinds of things. So at the time, God connected me with certain people. And it was funny, though, because when I first started the magazine, I was a part of a gospel group. And it was with some people in my church. And we were having a conference, and they had invited a man named Robert Chambers to be like one of the heads of the conference, and he does a lot of music and stuff. I had been following him on Facebook for quite some time, And I'm just like, you know, 'cause I love, as I said, I'm a singer, so I love music and I love the piano. And he's fluent in piano. Part of his thing is teaching you how to play the piano by ear. So I had seen him at different things, and I was following him, and then I was like, let me see what his wife is about. So then I started following his wife. His wife is Tanika Chambers, and she runs a ministry called Single, Ready, and Waiting. So I'm like, this lady looks very interesting. Just for her, the very first time I meet the both of them at this conference, I find out Tanika went to school with Alistair.
Come on.
They've known each other. They knew each other growing up. I'm like, what? You know, like, the world is so small.
A
right?
divine design, for sure. A confirmation.
It was a divine. And the relationship led to, through her, I got some of the writers and contributors from her church, because we were doing t-shirts at that time. And she wanted t-shirts for her ministry. So Alistair ended up doing t-shirts. And then she started forwarding people from her church to get t-shirts from us. Then I'm realizing, wait, you run a ministry. You run a ministry. You run a ministry. So I just invited them all on as writers for the magazine. And that's how it just organically just started to evolve. Yeah. So, you know, the whole journey of it, it's just, God has really shown me that it doesn't matter. It does not matter what you think or how you feel. When God gives you an assignment, He's already qualified. You
Amen.
don't have to qualify yourself.
Amen.
He has already qualified you, which is why He gave it to you in the first place.
Because Tracy, that's a beautiful point, and I sort of interrupt you because, you know, you're in a position, and I'm sure there are people from your circle who probably maybe would have entertained the idea. Why her? How did she become a publisher? And not necessarily they are haters, but they're thinking, they're confounded. Why her?
Yeah.
And then sometimes the voices in their heads gets louder, and they start to exhibit behaviors of covetousness and envy and jealousy, and they're not prepared for what God is about to do in your life. So how do you deal with that when God blesses you and people are not catching up with the blessing? They're not understanding where it's coming from. How do you deal with it?
Well, the thing is, I have to remember that God is in control. God is in control. And despite how I feel, you know, it's not easy, because I've had to deal with a lot of people coming alongside. They've had their ulterior motives.
Yep.
You know, they've wanted to take what they can, and, you know, I just have to surrender. I just have to surrender. And it's not easy. And I know, too, a lot of times God allows you to go through certain things. It's also to build you. It's also to build you, make you stronger, help you experience and be more wise, so you're able to deal with things a lot different. Because most of us, a lot of us, were never taught how to love. And it's funny, because I had this conversation with someone recently. Most of us have come from broken environments. Most of us have had, you know, a lot of unnice things happen, traumatic things happen. And I was that person. I came from a broken environment. I had a lot of traumatic things happen to me. And I know it's only by the grace of God why I'm still meant to be sane. you know, especially in the Black community. Now let's talk about mental health, okay?
Sure.
Let's
It's
talk
a great
about
topic.
mental health.
For sure.
Because especially now during COVID and all these things that are happening where there's a lot of fear. People are
and there's a
trying
lot
to
of fear and anxiety
understand.
coming out of the Black community because of all the images and the attacks upon the Black
Yes,
community in Toronto and outside.
that's
It's
right.
compounding.
That's right. It's very compounding, but we also have to recognize what is the root of these feelings that we're feeling. And a lot of it is from a lot of things that have happened in our past that we never dealt with. And so when certain things happen, it shows up, and it's like it's almost like a wound that has been picked and now is bleeding. And so it's coming out now, and we're wondering, why do I feel so hurt, so broken, so angry, so, really distraught over some of these things that are happening? And a lot of it is triggers. Some of the things that we're seeing and we're experiencing are triggers from things in our past that we've never dealt with. And one of the main things is a lot of people struggle with love. A lot of people struggle because love is such a pure thing. It is who God is. God is the essence. He is love. Love it's giving, it's enduring, it's long suffering. It's, love
Patient.
is so patient, it's kind. And if you're really honest with yourself, you struggle with a lot of those things, right? We all struggle with these things because of the purity of it. But we need to know that the opposite of love is fear. So when we find ourselves in these positions in our lives, whether it be with people or circumstances, we need to really look at, what am I afraid of in this moment? What is causing these anxiety feelings? What is causing me to feel sad? What am I afraid of? And a lot of times in relationships, the fear that we're feeling is we're not enough, that the person will see our scars and the traumas. A lot of times it's, just simply not having the capacity to receive something that we're not ready for.
And that's a really good point, Tracy. I think a lot of us, as you alluded to, not knowing how to receive love.
Yes.
And suspecting it and doubting it when it does come, and then ultimately sabotaging it.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Because it's a fear. It's a fear of, can I trust you? Right? Like, if I'm going to love you, that means there has to be some level of trust. Right? If I'm going to love you, that means I have to now remove myself, like my ego, all of those things that make me put up all these walls, which is really from fear, right? And that's why people need to understand where there is love, the Bible says perfect love casts out all fear.
And we know fear is not of God. Absolutely.
It's not of God. It's not of God. But love and fear cannot exist at the same way light and darkness cannot exist at the same time. So you will know if you're in pure love if there is no fear. And it's hard for people because as human beings, we want to control everything. Okay, well, I want to make sure this is okay and that this is all right. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just being in a place of complete and total faith in God and just saying, you know, Lord, whatever should be, I know that you will control what needs to be controlled. I surrender. I surrender it all to you. And I'm
Absolutely.
putting my complete faith and trust in you. And even if or when someone hurts me, I pray and I ask you, Lord God, reduce me to love. Reduce me down to love. Right? So, especially in these times when we're seeing a lot of racism happening, you know, where our people are being attacked and murdered all the time, it's disheartening. It's hard, you know. Fear now starts to come and trying to push out love. But we have to remember, yes, we don't have control over what happens, but we can stand in God's love, knowing that He has a plan for whatever is happening. He has a plan for it, and that in His appointed time, He is going to address it. Right? And
Absolutely.
so we have to stand in faith and believe and trust and know. We just gotta know God loves us. His word says He will never leave us. He will never, you know, He will never forsake us. We have to know that. That's why it's important to stand in a lifestyle of faith, believing and knowing that God is for us and He will never leave us. As long as we trust Him and we submit ourselves, we're good. We're good.
Absolutely.
It's when fear comes now. Fear is a disruptor. Fear brings an energy that is not positive. Fear allows the enemy's foot in. And that's the problem. A lot of times we're seeing negative results because we've allowed fear to come in some way, and we've allowed it to fester, and we've allowed it to grow, and we've given it attention. We cannot give fear attention.
No.
The only power that is overcoming is love. It's love.
Absolutely.
It's God. It's love.
The purest
Right?
form, yes, from God. And
Yes.
and I'm so happy that you bring that up, because that's one of the articles that I've submitted, receiving God's
Yes.
love.
Yes.
And receiving God's love and giving love to yourself and to others only comes from a relationship of loving God first.
That's
and loving
right.
Him best.
Well, it's starting from the point of His love for us allows us to trust Him and love Him back.
To love Him back.
Because the thing of it is, and like I said before, most of us have not been taught how to love.
True.
Because of the hurts, the brokenness, a lot of the traumas and things that most people have endured in their life, which makes it hard for them to love, because these things have caused fear. And it's fear that becomes the, how do you say, it becomes the division, or becomes the wall that we use in our relationships, in the things in our lives, when we want to step forth in our dreams and our passions. Fear becomes a barrier. It becomes that blockage, that thing that stops us. But when you live a lifestyle of faith and you begin to learn to trust God and not to worry and know that He's working everything out in your good, then you'll have more power to try things, to move forward, and the visions and the dreams. Because a lot of the vision and the dreams that we have, it's from God.
Absolutely.
It's from God.
Yeah. If we allow ourselves to listen to what God wants us to do, then we can align ourselves into our purpose, right?
Yeah.
And what you're doing, Tracy, is such a beautiful illustration of you being obedient and taking yourself out of a place of comfort and being in that area where you were allowed to witness and be so empathetic because of that experience, right? And then God didn't allow that to happen. It was a temporary situation for you to learn, so that now you're in a position to teach and to teach those lessons so well. So you're here now as the wonderful, spearheading this mission. It's a ministry, right? Soulful Image Magazine, and you have an issue coming out, and I'm so happy to be asked. I'm honored to be one of your contributors. I appreciate that wonderful chance to share my ministry through your platform. And where can we get the copies? And let's talk a little bit about the contributions right now, like who is on board with the mission, and then where is it going to be available, Tracy?
Okay. So right now, just restructuring some things. I have a big vision. I have a big vision for this magazine. God has given me something big, and just aligning myself with some really powerful women who are doing their ministries, and it's all the same ministry. Like, first, I want to address that. A lot of us feel that we need to compete. There is no competition.
No competition.
In the Spirit of God.
Absolutely.
Because in the Spirit of God, it is one Spirit.
Sure.
God is one Spirit, but He activates and moves. As the body, there are different parts that need to connect in order for Him to move. So we need to be mindful of that. So when we're speaking of ministries, it's not mine, it's not yours, it belongs to God, right? So whatever we're doing, there's more than enough room for us to collaborate, help each other, grow together, because it's for the same purpose. It's for the kingdom, and it's to help people overcome a lot of the things that they're dealing with, that they're not getting the freedom that they deserve and that is available to us all. Salvation is a free gift. So right now you can get a copy of the magazine on our website, soulfulimagemag.com. We're also on Instagram at Soulful Image Mag. We're also on Facebook, Soulful Image Magazine. Right now we're working on an amazing financial issue. The cover will be Laura Langemeyer. So she's from the movie The Secret. And we decided on that. I just felt from the Lord, a lot of people are struggling right now on finances.
Yes.
And I really wanted to talk and explore faith, where your finances fit in that, and basically how to navigate through that in these COVID times. As men and women of faith, we are mandated by God's Spirit to do His will, to be purpose driven. So every assignment that we are given, we all need money. Money is a tool.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And there's a lot of misconceptions, people thinking, money is evil and things. God said the love of money. We're not to love the money. We're to love God. We're to love what He's given us to do. Money is just a tool. So how do we help people navigate through some of those thoughts How do we help them navigate even dealing with debt, dealing with where they are financially? A lot of people are maybe not experiencing abundance financially. You know, let's talk about the roots of that. How can we overcome that? And how can we stand in faith knowing that if God gave you an assignment that requires finances, that we need to surrender and trust that He's going to bring what needs to come. Obviously, we still have to be in action. We can't just sit doing nothing and expect money to just fall out of the sky.
Sure.
But we still have to be in faithful action, doing what we need to do, get ourselves out there, network with the right people, do the things that you need to do to
do all the planning, do all the preparation. Yeah.
Preparation, planning, all of those things.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, it's coming out next month. It's actually Laurel's birthday is in June, so it's I'm really happy that we'll have this available and ready for her in her birthday month, because she celebrates all month. But yeah, she's a great person. She's coined the Millionaire Maker, so she actually helps businesses find a cash flow, create the money that they need in order to make their business generate capital and things. So yeah, just really having that conversation with her in the magazine, doing an article and showcasing her strengths and what she does to help people, just the advice she has. And then we did an interview with her as well. So yeah, pretty excited.
Awesome. And where can people we're going to be wrapping up in the next little bit, but where can people find the articles? I know there's an online version, and where can they purchase it in the physical?
So once it comes out, I mean, keep in contact with soulfulimage.mag.com. You can sign up for our newsletter. We'll let you know as soon as it's available, and then it'll be available to purchase either online. We had it in a few places, but with COVID, we have to like restructure some things. Some of the stores, unfortunately, have closed down. But yeah, online right now is where it will be, and we'll just keep everyone up to date once we move forward in our distribution plans. So yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, Tracey, congratulations. I'm really so proud of all your achievements. You have just a beautiful story. Have you thought about writing a book about your journey?
Oh yes, I have. I
think it'll be a bestseller.
Yeah, I've written in some what do you call it, anthologies and things. We also started our own called Soulful. Like your soul is full of faith, love, and walking in purpose. So we have a series of books that we are aligning along with the magazine, where we allow people like you to, share your journey, your visions, the things that God has given you and what you've gone through and how you've overcome through your faith. And that's what I share all the time. It's very important because we all go through similar stories, and we need to know that faith is the substance of things, not seen, but it's the evidence of what we hope for. So it's so important. So important.
And then fear, if we break it down, is the acronym for false evidence appearing real, right?
Appearing real. That's right.
It's an attack on the mind, and we know the mind is a battlefield. So we really have to overcome any kind of spreading of fear. Deal with it, stop it, and let faith take over. So I so appreciate your pearls of wisdom. Thank you so much, Tracey. You know that we've been on for about an hour. It's been such a beautiful conversation. Oh yeah, it's almost 3. I really do appreciate you and your time. And Alistair, if you're watching, awesome, all the work that you're doing. And I like the cartoons that he's developing. So let me just give a little shout out. Ivy Vine says, congratulations, thanks for joining. I want to thank Malia Indigo for joining, and Kuraz Designs, Tom Rakanovic, NDP, MPP for Humber River. Thank you so much for joining. And then we have Shelly Jarrett. She joined and she said, congratulations, Tracy. And then we have the International Women's Achievement Awards. I think that's Princess Butcher who joined us. And Chin 3245, Lucas Mom, everybody, thank you so much for joining in. And if you missed the live broadcast, have no fear, it's going to be on Instagram when we're done with the live, and then I'm going to put it up on YouTube so that you can watch and like and share as much as you can. So wonderful, Tracy. Bye, Nikki. Another great show. Thank you so much for watching, Ivy. And Tracy, one more time before we wrap it up, where can people find you on social media, like Instagram, Twitter? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Soulful Image Mag. My website is soulfulimagemag.com. Facebook, Soulful Image Magazine. So you could send me an email, info@soulfulimagemag, and talk to me. We're looking for writers. If you want to be a writer on my platform, let me know. There's some positions we are filling, but reach out to me, see what we could do.
There you go. There you go. So increasing the flow and just putting wonderful energy out and letting God use us in the way that we know how to do best, whatever gifts we have. So thank you so much, Tracy. Really appreciate it. And everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. We're going to be back again on Tuesday. I think 4 o'clock with Jeff Orson. He is a singer-songwriter from Canada, and he has a couple of hits out. He's got a song out called Pray. So we'll talk about his journey, and he's got a fantastic story. And maybe, if we are so blessed, he'll even perform for us. So, Tracy, thank you so much. You've been watching the Nikki Clarke Show. Everyone, stay safe, stay strong, stay positive, and we'll see you back next time. Bye for now. Thanks, Tracy.
Bye.
Bye.